Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm doing another episode of Matt Rants. So, today we are talking about Hyperkin's N64 clone and a few concerns that I have with the console. Before we talk about our concerns, let me actually talk about some positives and some hopes that I have for this console. So, why am I hopeful and slightly hyped? Well, first things first, if you didn't know this, there are currently no N64 clones on the market. Now, we haven't really known why for years. We didn't know if it was a trademark issue, if it was something involving the parts inside and they couldn't be replicated due to X, Y, or Z reasons. Maybe they were a bit too hard to replicate. Emulation works, but we don't know if it's going to be an FGPA type situation, a type of hardware clone, or mostly a software clone via emulation. What we do know as of right now is that, judging from the video as well, which I can't play the whole video, but I'll have some pictures up as I'm talking about this, we know that there is a Hyperkin N64 controller. If that's already out, sorry guys, not familiar with Hyperkin N64 products, but if it is out, we do know that it is compatible, understandably so, with this prototype console. We do know that it's a prototype, so if you don't like the way that it looks, that's fine. It isn't meant to be the final product as of yet. There was music playing on top of the video, so you could hear some audio every now and again, but there's a good chance that they haven't really ironed all that out, so they probably didn't want to show the audio maybe, you know, not being synced up correctly, maybe missing a few sound effects, and then of course it's the internet, so the sky would be falling. Now, something really cool about the video, again, something that we know as of this time, it does play Japanese cartridges as well, so you don't need to either swap out the carts, which I have shown you how to play Japanese carts on your US N64 on this channel for an episode of TG Tutorials. I have shown you guys that because I didn't really want to hurt my N64 and kind of take out those tabs because mine is a Hey You Pikachu edition, so I didn't really want to do that. Some of you guys have done that in the past, so you don't need to do that with this one. Apparently it does seem to be region free, and also, good thing to mention, it is HDMI out. So it's obviously HDMI compatible, straight to, I don't know if it's AV compatible, but either way, if you have a television that is HDMI only, or you just don't want to mess around with all these different AV cables, trying to get one specifically for the N64, even though if you have one for the SNES, it would work as well. Still, if you're a little concerned about that, it is HDMI out. But why do I personally have some concerns, or why do I not feel exactly as hyped as everyone else is? I've mentioned some great things, but well, there's a few other things. So, first things first, I'm a little bit worried about the price point. And the reason why I say this is because normally when people think about consoles and how, oh, they're going to take over the market, oh, they're going to replace the need for the originals, while the games do fluctuate in price, from what I've seen recently, if you want a bare bones N64 and you already have maybe a third-party controller or you already have some of the cords lying around, it's not really going to be more than $20. Now, yes, like I just mentioned, that price could increase if you do want a controller with it, if you do want some games with it, but if you already are getting this and you have, you know, the games, you're trying to look for a way to replace your N64, will this be the best option? And of course, believe me, I'm not saying that I think that the $400 option, you know, having to mod your original N64 to get the best quality HDMI output is the best option, because that's money that I don't have, and that's why I haven't upgraded my N64 or gotten one that's been upgraded, because I don't want to pay $400 and I don't have the technical skill to actually buy a $150 HDMI kit and actually install it myself, so I can't do that, to be fair. But when looking at the console itself, trying to get one right now, an older one, isn't really that expensive. And also, I mentioned before, getting the games. Yes, that could increase the price if you're getting it in a bundle, but that does lead me into my next point, which is the fact that the games aren't really going to be affected by this at all. And I say that simply due to the fact that if people are still buying the N64, either the original or this one, games are going to increase and decrease either way. So creating this, yes, it is a good alternative, don't get me wrong, and maybe it would get some people into it who might have been a bit hesitant before, but this isn't an NES situation where there's problems with the lockout chip, with the pins, anything like that. I'm not saying N64 can't have a problem with pins. Of course, having a jumper cable I just said jumper cable. I'm referring to the pack that allows you to play Donkey Kong 64. Yes, some of that stuff might be a little wary, might make people a little bit wary trying to get this console, maybe even the transfer pack stuff with Pokemon Stadium, but I do feel as if getting this isn't necessarily going to quell any of those concerns, especially moving on to my third point, which is the fact that when looking at accessories like that, you do wonder, are they going to work with this console? And look, I understand that no clone console is going to be 100% perfect, but there are certain games like Donkey Kong 64, like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, that, to me anyway, at least someone growing up who had those games, are a really big part of the console. I actually didn't play Legend of Zelda on the N64. Tell me how terrible I am in the comment section down below. I didn't have those games growing up, so I do have, or I had at least, Link to the Past on the GBA. Love that game so much. But I didn't actually have those two Legend of Zelda games on the N64. So because of that, for me, yes, you can get those games and obviously play them, but there are going to be certain games that aren't going to work. And I think that those are not just a random few, kind of games, just throw them away. These are games that, for me, were a really big part of my experience playing the N64. Now, if it isn't for you, and that maybe they don't end up working for some reason or another, alright, that's fair. That's just, then you can just kind of discount that point altogether. But I do think that me mentioning the transfer pack, also, they showed a Hyperkin controller, hopefully just to say, hey, we're promoting our Hyperkin products. But will it be a problem in the future? Will we not be able to use N64 controllers on the system itself? Now that is probably one that can, a kind of sub-point that can just easily be thrown away due to the fact that every Hyperkin product that I personally own does utilize original controllers. I can just plug in my SNES controller into a Retron 5 or an NES controller into a Retron 3. So no real big problems there. I assume that's going to be just fine. But when it comes to transfer packs, looking at the Retro Fighters controller, transfer packs don't work with that. So will the transfer pack be able to be registered with or able to kind of just be activated with the Ultra Retron? And moving on to point number 4, I mentioned HDMI earlier. Speaking of that, is this going to be the best quality? So looking at the television, it didn't look bad at all to me, but will it actually compare to some other things on the market right now? Now, I say this simply due to the fact that, yes, this is probably not going to be as good as the $400, or really, the $120, $150 kit that online people, mod their N64s and sell that for $300 to $400. Not going to be as good as that. I'm assuming it's going to be better than an RGB modded one. But my question is this. So when I brought up price much earlier, comparing a $20 N64, just the normal one, to I'm assuming, again, we don't know the price just yet, but maybe $150, $100 to $150 Ultra Retron. I just called it a friggin' Ultron. An Ultra Retron. So we don't know what the price is going to be just yet, but I'm assuming it's not going to be $40. It's not going to be $60. I'm assuming it's going to be over $100. So how good is it going to look compared to what we already have on the market? Now, obviously, it's going to look a lot better than a cheap little converter box to HDMI. Definitely going to look better than that. Again, you can just see from the footage alone, it already does look better than that. But is this going to be a really good, cost-effective method of trying to play HDMI games using HDMI on your television? Will someone just try to get a TV that does have that is AV compatible, rather, instead of just getting a TV that has 4K and then playing this? I don't know. Of course, that's someone's personal preference, but I just think, as someone who already not only has an N64, but who could get one rather cheaply, just through eBay or through garage sales or swap meets, things like that, is it really going to be worth it to get this? Not that it can't look good and that it won't look good, but will it be better than the competition, or will it at least look, let's say if it's 100 and some odd, 1/4 as good as the competition? I would say yes, but again, with things like incompatibility, with issues that are going to arise from some type of emulation, is this going to be the best for the price that I'm assuming it's going to be at? And that also brings me to point number 5. I just mentioned emulation. I mentioned emulation a little bit earlier, actually, when it came to software versus hardware. Is this going to be a situation like with the Retron 5, where people had to look at the Retron 5 and go, these consoles are being emulated not through hardware emulation like the Analog NT Mini and the Super Analog NT and the Sega one as well. I forgot what that was called, but I remember Analog being in the name, and I remember us covering it a while ago. The question is that it's going to be hardware like that, or is it going to be software like many other Hyperkin products? And then we're going to be sitting around going, well, were the original makers of the emulators, were they credited in some way? Were they given some type of cash in some way or another? Or is it just, again, going to be like another Retron 5 situation, have a controversy like that? So it's a lot to think about, and I understand why people were excited because, again, initially, like I brought up at the beginning of the video, I'm actually very excited to have this happen because we've never had something like this before. So there's nothing to really compare this to one-to-one. And some people online were trying to compare it to an N64 Classic, but it's not because this plays cartridges. And like I mentioned before, it didn't go into too much, but again, I don't really think this is going to change the prices of cartridges because I would argue someone who's casual trying to get into this would probably want to get the cheapest option available, and comparing an N64, which I don't hear them being unreliable compared to like NESs or even SNESs at this point, being unreliable versus getting this product, which I'm not saying it's going to be unreliable, but it definitely is going to be over $100. If this thing debuts, and by the time this video is out, maybe, we get some new info on this. If this thing debuts under $100, so like 60 to 80 bucks, you got me. Especially if it has a controller. Oh, also should mention as well, something I mentioned earlier, it does have 4 controller ports, so you don't have to worry about playing Super Smash Brothers on this thing. It did look like in the video, by the way, speaking of Super Smash Brothers, that it was a little bit slow, a little bit laggy maybe, but again, this is a demo unit. It also is playable at E3, so if anyone has played this thing at E3, please tell me your thoughts about it down below as we're wrapping this thing up. So, yes, those are my 5, let me put down one hand, 5 concerns. If you're listening to the audio, I had 2 hands up for some odd reason. My 5 concerns with this N64 clone, the Ultra Retron, but that does not mean that no one should buy it. That doesn't mean that you might not like it. If you like it, please tell me what you like about it down below, and if you're going to get one, and if you're going to sell your N64 for it, or if you don't have an N64, maybe it broke down, maybe it was unreliable, and you are going to get this one. Heck, just for the fact that it's region-free, might want to dip into it depending on the price. But again, I have my Pikachu one since I was a kid, so I really do enjoy that one a lot. But I will admit this is a little tempting. But I have to see if those concerns are addressed, if those needs are met for me personally, before I personally jump in and actually purchase this product. But again, tell me what you think about all of this stuff down in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for tuning in as always. Please remember to like and subscribe if you liked the video. And if you didn't like the video, you can still like and subscribe either way. Alright guys, so thank you all so much. I love you all. Take care and tune in next time for another episode of Matt Rants. Alright guys, so see ya.